Welcome to a brief intro to OSA's data inquiry during COVID-19 response, presented by the WISExplore team. In this webinar, we will share a few ideas, resources, and next steps for you to think about. Typical data leadership activities engage school leadership teams in conducting inquiry into school performance and student achievement using data to inform school improvement planning and classroom instruction. COVID-19 has disrupted our typical routines in assessing student achievement and behavior. As a result, our focus for inquiry will be guided by both familiar and new questions. Inquiry is all about questions and how we will investigate our evidence for answers. What do we know and how do we know it? What is our evidence? What data informs us? What do we wonder or what don't we know, and how will we find out? What data do we have or what data do we need to collect? What will guide our work as we go? Which data will we use to inform us along the way? What have we learned and how will we use our learning? Later, we will share how the OSA Data Leadership Academy will help guide you in making adjustments needed during the COVID-19 response. This webinar will address preparing. What data will be gathered to determine our students' academic and social-emotional learning? What data will be gathered to determine our teachers' professional development needs related to our district's COVID-19 reopening strategy? Questioning. What important questions of teachers and school leaders can we ask and seek answers to that will help us with action planning? Engaging. How will we use that data to continually adjust our plans throughout the year and inform our instructional practices? And next steps. How the Data Leadership Academy can lead teams through local inquiry. Let's think about how to get ready for inquiry in 2020-21. With COVID-19, we know that state data we use often won't be available. Here we've compiled a list of new state data that will be available for inquiry, as well as the data that will not be available. Regardless, there will be some holes that prevent you from getting a true picture of student achievement for the 1920 school year and possibly beyond. So how will you conduct data inquiry of student outcomes? You'll be focusing on local data, which is often more timely, more accurate, and more telling than data from standardized tests. Research is clear that the use of formative assessment directly impacts student achievement, so the notion of PLCs, collaboration among teachers, and zooming in on qualitative data will be key to your data inquiry this year. Some examples are listed here for your consideration. You'll need to take stock of the data sources available to you and the data that's missing. On this slide, you will find a link to a great resource from the DPI on formative assessment strategies. There are some logistics that should be addressed. For example, we know state testing results are always found in WISE-, but what about the local data that we just discussed? Where's that housed? Who can see and use it? Take student work, for example. How can it be aggregated into a classroom or grade level view? How can it be summarized and then also disaggregated for analysis? A framework and process is necessary to analyze local data. Be prepared. You won't have all of the data you need. Determining your available data sources is best done as a collaborative team. Discuss the areas where data is missing and what strategies you will use for a fuller data picture for inquiry. An important question within any data inquiry is evidence of equity. Now we have a new context to reflect about equity. What did equity look like during the quarantine for each group of students, including English learners, racial groups, students with IEPs, gifted learners? Would these 5 focus areas be defined differently for the classroom, hallways, and in a virtual learning world? Read more about these DPI focus areas in the link found in this slide. Here are some questions to consider about collaboration. Why is a collaborative approach to inquiry about your school's current state important? What process of inquiry will you use to bring teams together to analyze and interpret the data to find out? Finally, how and when will you bring teams together around the data to inform school reopening and throughout the school year? WISExplore proposes a core process to guide inquiry, such as these fundamental steps: question, investigate, clarify, and hypothesize. Begin with relevant and critical questions that your team wants to ask. Then determine the data sources relevant to those questions. Locate the data, observe the trends, gaps, and patterns. Clarify and document your findings so they can be shared with others. Determine the most critical student priority outcome for immediate action. Pose hypotheses of educator practices used both before and during remote learning as possible root causes for student learning gaps. Be sure to sort uncontrollable factors from controllable factors. Highlight those actionable practices supported by research that, when implemented, will expedite the learning process and meet immediate student needs. COVID or no COVID, leadership is key for effective continuous improvement. And not just general leadership, instructional leadership, focusing on teaching and learning, is essential. A key question is, how effective was our school leadership during the COVID crisis? What data will inform the effectiveness of your school leadership? Here you'll find a survey to help you explore basic needs and considerations, student learning, connectedness and expectations, and next year planning. We encourage you to try this survey and share your feedback with us. Did it help you? Another great resource to guide inquiry is the DPI's Education Forward Guidance document, which is linked here. This can easily be used as a checklist for the topics presented, including governance, learning landscape, operations, health and safety, instructional programming, and out-of-school time programs. Next to effective leadership, effective teachers is the other key element that has the greatest impact on student achievement. What data can we collect now from teachers, regardless of whether we are in a brick or mortar or virtual setting? Your inquiry question might be, to what extent are our teachers using effective instructional practices in both online and face-to-face settings? For starters, there are a number of tools available to help you gather data from and about your teachers. The COVID-19 Support Study survey for teachers provides information on basic needs and connectedness, student learning, and instructional practices. Also, you can easily adapt resources that define primary practices of high-quality digital instruction into teaching tools and checklists for your staff. This example from the Wisconsin Digital Learning Collaborative is fantastic. Click on the picture to explore it further. Now let's shift our focus to next year and how collaborative inquiry can be a strong foundation for your work. School leaders leading a collaborative data inquiry process may want to guide data teams to determine the current state. What data will be used to inform us at any given time throughout the year? Establish a process to monitor student learning progress. How and when will the data be used and by whom? Establish a process for ongoing inquiry at all levels of the system. Think district, school, grade or department, classroom, specialists. Don't overlook scheduling the time for this work. And utilize a plan, such as a meeting agenda template, that will provide purpose and focus, as well as a record of the inquiry. Collaborative conversations will help you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening. Whether you are in a school building or virtual, connecting with stakeholders is essential, both to inform the collaborative discussions and to gather additional information to inform the work. We've included some examples here: school and teacher teams, families, and community, though there may be more you would include. The conversation topics here might be expanded as well. To help facilitate this collaboration, the WISExplore team offers a PLC inquiry protocol that can be used by teacher teams, whether face-to-face or in virtual settings. The protocol, which is linked here on the slide, guides teachers through the important PLC questions about the evidence of students meeting their learning targets. Teachers can use this template to record and analyze data from classroom student work, whether in grade level PLC teams or department PLCs. This template could also be easily adapted for other collaborative conversations or even be used by a teacher individually. We spent a little time talking about data inquiry and how it will look differently this year. So what's next? If you liked what you heard and wish to expand on the data inquiry process and explore many more resources, we encourage you to attend AUSA's Data Leadership Academy, or as we fondly call it, DLA. Over the course of 4 sessions throughout the next school year, the WISExplore team will facilitate your learning leadership teams in a data inquiry process while you engage with your data. This academy is designed for school leadership teams, and registration information is linked on the slide or available on the AUSA website. Should you have any questions about the content presented here, use the email on this slide to reach out to the WISExplore team. On behalf of the team, thank you, and we hope to see you at DLA.